Today we are going to be doing a philosophical commentary on the 2011 Green Lantern movie. It's not a good movie in the sense that it was not well received and it's very corny and shallow. That said, I still enjoyed watching it, even if I was disappointed at the end. However, that disappointment was actually what made it such a perfect movie to do a review on, which I will get to at the end. How is Green Lantern a philosophical movie? It's clearly not trying to be deep or edgy. It comes off as a corny action superhero movie. Green Lantern is a philosophical movie implicitly, via its very existence. How did someone think that this would be worth $200 million to produce? How is it that people find the attention to sit watching this trash for an hour and a half? How is it that we find the movie illegitimate? The Green Lantern tells us something about ourselves. Currently, postmodern philosophers and current culture love to tell us everything about morality or virtue is arbitrary and baseless. When it comes to finding meaning, the individual is told that all sources of meaning are arbitrary and baseless. However, I believe that virtue and meaning are not arbitrary. Just as the Green Lantern ring is bestowed upon Hal Jordan, we are bestowed with certain innate proclivities and innate sense of right and wrong. Of course, there is great variation in what such proclivities are, but each individual cannot deny the lot that they are given, at least until we achieve artificial neuromodulation. In watching the Green Lantern, despite the fluff, I cannot deny that there is a narrative within the movie that speaks to my heart, that informs me what matters to me, and hopefully this analysis will inform you how to discern where the meaning comes from in movies and life. That may have been long-winded, but it sets up my analysis of Green Lantern. Ultimately, when a story really strikes your heart, it's information on how you should act and how you should be. Before we get into who you should be, Green Lantern, we need to get into who you should not be, Hector Hammond. Hector Hammond is the dark side of Hal Jordan. He shares the same aspirations, proving himself to his father, being respected, and dating Blake Lively, but he lacks the noble and courageous heart. Instead, he is small, bitter, and envious. The demon which will destroy the universe in this movie is a demon manifestation of fear. Hammond lets the demon into his heart and uses it to reap destruction and exact bitter revenge. Symbolically, he means the same as Smerdyakov does, from Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov, a character who gives in to his own nihilism, bitterness, and destruction, and comes to the rational conclusion of his negative ideals, self-destruction. Like Grushenka's parable, Hammond is actually offered an onion, the last shard of hope which may redeem his tarnished soul. Hal confesses his weakness, offers his love to Hector, and gives him the green ring, but Hector chooses the path of selfishness and destruction and proceeds to attack the Green Lantern and even his beloved Carol. He just has a crush on her and she actually likes Hal, but still, it signifies his ultimate rejection of value and love. Seemingly, these horrible traits should have been enough to make any viewer detest Hammond, but one formal feature the producers used to drive the point home was to cast and edit Hammond as a small, hideous, frail, and eventually mutilated man, taking advantage of the halo effect to make it extremely obvious how undesirable he is. It's decisions like these that make the Green Lantern such a bad film, suggesting takeaways such as, people who are ugly on the outside are also ugly on the inside. In contrast, our heroes Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are gorgeous, reinforcing the ideal of faith with the ideal of sexual attractiveness. With such in-your-face dichotomy, the viewer feels as though he is being peddled something. There is an inkling of suspicion, maybe even just at an unconscious level. Like Smerdyakov, Hammond eventually kills his own father, demonstrating Sartre's notion of acting in bad faith, rejecting the freedom and responsibility he has to change, and instead laying responsibility on the facticity of life which formed him, and choosing revenge over growth. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword, and Hammond meets a brutal death at the hands of the fear demon. Note again the rhetorical choice of making evil extremely ugly. They use dark smoke for the body, predatory eyes, and large canine teeth, preying upon human evolutionary nature of stuff we are afraid of. Again, shoving this clear evil and goodness down your throat. So that's Hector Hammond, that's who we should not be, and that's why we should not be it. Who is our alternative? Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is a cocky test pilot, but he wrestles with insecurity following the death of his father, a man he feels he can never live up to. Shockingly, he is selected by the Green Lantern Ring to become the newest member of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic peacekeeping body, the first human ever selected. The ring draws from a user's will, making it the perfect plot device. When Hal arrives at Oa, the planet of the Green Lanterns, he gets his ass whooped, and Hal decides again that he is unworthy and returns home. Notice the lighting choices made, and the strong contrast between Oa and Earth. Oa is consumed in darkness. It is a cold and desolate place, just like the darkness of the present moment. Earth, on the other hand, is warm and pleasant. It would be nice to stay there. Just as for the viewer, it would be nice to never be courageous. Why pursue God when it is so much easier to do nothing? As Sartre wrote, man is condemned to be free. And as Dostoevsky wrote in The Grand Inquisitor, this means they can reject God, as Hal rejects the mandate of the ring. The ring represents the existential burden placed upon the individual, that we are forced with the responsibility upon us to be loving and responsible, whether we are aware of it yet or not. However, in this scene, Hal now takes the leap of faith, despite his fear. Why? The jacket brings to the surface Hal's deep commitment to courage that was instilled by his father, which the jacket brings back. In a very Dostoevsky sense, he must obey the angels of his consciousness. Why is it that when we watch this scene, the viewer feels like, yes, this is great? Nietzsche would characterize this as the will to power. The life of comfort and ease is not admirable. One must continually overcome oneself. Rhetorically, the film shows us this reflection without words by zooming in on the jacket and then on Hal's face. So, Hal embraces his fear and overcomes it, deciding to face the demon of fear, and suddenly, he is an amazing gifted ring bearer. In contrast to the rest of the movie, it's an extremely bright and green scene, giving an aura of levity, and granting zero emotional weight to this final fight scene at all. This is where the movie really falls flat. Why? Hal Jordan did nothing to become so great. There was no trials which made him into a hero, no true development. Sartre's notion of bad faith well describes the issue, because we cannot purely be formed by our circumstances, as Hector is, but we also know that we cannot be purely formed by our intentions, as Green Lantern is. Sartre states, facticity and transcendence are two inseparable dimensions of being for itself. The most meaningful events or movie scenes are formed when an individual faces the facticity of their life but transforms it through the full extent of their will. Hal instantly becomes amazing, sets off little suspicions bells in the viewer's head, because there is no facticity for him to transcend. Finally, Hal faces off against the demon of fear. The zoomed-in camera shot helps put the viewer into Hal's shoes, to feel the pressure and emotions on his face. The camera pans up, as though Hal is the only thing between the viewer and death itself. It is the ultimate battle of wills, and it is meant to be the climax. In this moment, Hal becomes Kierkegaard's knight of infinite resignation. He gives up worldly desires of life and his love in order to serve God, or in this case, the greatest good. In the final scene of the movie, Hal Jordan defeats the demon of fear, sending it into the sun where it is consumed in a ball of fire. In this moment, Hal transcends the knight of infinite resignation, becoming the knight of faith, because he gives up everything, but he receives everything anyway. It's honestly disgusting. Why? Because it's so obvious. It's so simple and easy. When you're a kid, this doesn't matter, because you're little and you're not Hal. When you grow up, you have to ask, what does this movie mean for me? And the message, just give up your life in service of the greater good, and you will get the woman and all the glory and all the status and everything, and there won't be even a scratch on you. When I read my contemporaries' meaning of life essays, every person claimed their meaning in life lay in love and altruism. So I would ask, what altruistic loving things do you do? And the answer was nothing. Right now. But once they had security and peace and wealth, they could start helping people other than themselves. It's like we all automatically know what we should do, or what the hypothetical best thing we could do is, but we don't do it. Of course, we love people who give off the appearance of being a knight. In this movie, it makes you feel good because it backs that narrative up. Become a knight and receive all your selfish desires, and be beautiful, and no harm will come to you. Of course, it's fiction, it's bullshit. To live as a knight is to risk suffering and harm and being trampled by those who choose the low road. The better angels of our wills die in a realistic world. And no half-assed Green Lantern movie will be able to trick me into giving up my life for everybody else. That's why the Green Lantern movie is existential.